Hey everybody, Ron Roy here. I have cleared all the content in Pre-Season, Season 1 and Season 2, and today I would like to explain how you can do the same by improving your damage and what stats you should look for in Season 2 based on the changes to the damage buckets. Well, as you probably already know, in Season 2, Blizzard decided to change the damage bucket system, which calculates your final damage. Previously, critical strike damage and especially vulnerable were multiplicative and were calculated as separate buckets, which led to the meta where everybody tried to stack as many of those stats as possible. The system was completely changed in Season 2, so now only 20% from vulnerable and 50% from critical damage is multiplicative. Every other vulnerable and critical strike damage bonuses are now additive and just added to the main damage bucket. So let's focus on the new formula and how it works now by looking into simplified bucket visualization. Practically, right now we have weapon damage with a skill damage percent, then additional buckets such as primary stat, then all of our additive bonus in a sum as an additional damage bucket. Any additional critical strike damage above 50% basic bonus goes here together with any vulnerable damage bonus beyond basic 20% as well. Then critical strike damage bucket for 50% multiplier plus vulnerable 20% multiplier as well. So what does it mean? It means that right now almost any build out there mostly benefits from applying the vulnerable and critical strike conditions since it still gives us pure multipliers. So we need to make sure that enemy is always vulnerable and critical strike chance is high enough to crit as often as possible. That way, vulnerable source is really important for all builds out there, if you can apply it. Talking about new good thing overpower damage, since it can stack amazingly high percentage of the additive bonus, it is currently the strongest additional damage source in case if you can constantly apply it. So, if your build has such mechanics, you should definitely stack it everywhere possible. So, moving forward, what other stats you should look for and why? First, and the easiest way to boost your damage is picking the weapon with highest innate damage possible. They usually have the item power of 925, so make sure that you always have a maximum item power weapon to make your starting point of the damage before it went scaling higher. It may also seem that two-handed weapons should be better as well, yet the attack speed is a pure multiplier as well, so one-handed and two-handed should be really tight in terms of damage in the most cases, and you can pick the ones that will work for your build the best. Second, you can focus on your main damage stat. It is strength for barbarians, dexterity for rogue, willpower for druid, and intelligence for sorceress and necromancer. That way, any weapon stats with plus to your main stat or plus to all stats should work really good. It can also help with paragon requirements, so you can always pick those as a safe option. You can also stack both of them, especially on weapons, and on the other items as well, to get a few percent of damage here and there, for example on boots or on helmet. Third, attack speed can still be considered a pure multiplier, since if you are making 2 times more attacks in a second, then your DPS can literally double. That way, attack speed can be considered a pure multiplier as well, and should be stacked everywhere if your resource management allows it. There's a lot of new and cool vampiric powers that helps you to stack attack speed, so make sure you are looking into them. Most of the time it's Ravenous and the Moonrise. Fourth, core skill damage is pretty nice right now, and in a really strong position, since it is stable and applied at all times if your build is using core skills overall, and it should work out much better than almost anything else. If you are not using core skills, you can look further and try to find bonuses to the group of skills that you are focusing at to get that stable and persistent increase. Fifth, any other additional bonuses Most of the time it should be damage to close enemies or damage to the distant enemies, since those are most popular out of them all. Just make sure you're always close, which means literally touching the enemy, or distant. Also, additional options such as damage to crowd controls enemies or damage to slowed enemies or elemental damages and stuff like this could be considered pretty alright as well, if you have a constant source of required effects. Other power damage is also going into this category, with all the bonuses over 50% multiplicative increase will go there as an additive type of bonus. Are vulnerable and critical damage bonuses that bad right now? Should you drop them like immediately? Well, it is not completely like that. You just should consider them additive and compare with other additive bonuses. So if you have a vulnerable or critical damage on a weapon, for example, you can still use it, and since the damage benefit will be there, it just will be on par or a little less than other additive bonuses. Some specific builds with some of the classes still can benefit heavily from it. For example, a rogue with Victimize ultimate passive. So remember, if you are playing one of such builds, you can use those bonuses without any kind of hesitation. You should also keep in mind that if you are picking critical strike damage, you should perfectly have more than 60% of critical strike chance to make sure that this bonus is applied constantly, since it just can't work if you're not critting enough. That way, if you have a vulnerable source, which is reliable and always up, then vulnerable probably will work better for your build. So let's look at a few good weapon examples for different classes. It is just a rough set of examples, so please remember that you need to adapt it to the build that you are currently playing. I'm also picking two-handed version for all of them just as an example too, so you can use one-handed instead with the same set of affixes. We can get a stat bonus at all of them together with the all stat bonus to reach our Paragon requirements and get the additional multiplicative bonus. Current damage to close or distant, for example, as well. Such weapon will work for most of the builds and will give you a stable and reliable damage boost. You can change core skill damage if you're not using core skills like at all, or distant based affix if you have something better in mind, but overall formula just stays the same. So, in the end I can say that both attack speed and critical strike chance are really important now to have constant and stable multiplicative bonuses. Then goes weapon damage as a starting point, which really affects the result heavily. Main stat comes after this, which is really strong right now, as it works as a separate bucket. Core skill damage comes next due to good numbers and high stability. Then goes all other additive bonuses, starting with overpower as one of the biggest percentage ones, and moving further to various additive bonuses including vulnerable and critical strike damage ones, that should be pretty much considered in this bucket. Resource management importance also rise in the Season 2. And further, since with a lot of sources of additional attack speed, it can be pretty important to maintain resource over the half at all times. You can use a basic attack rotation for that, or some kind of class-specific aspect that will help you with the regeneration. Just make sure that you already know what to do if you are running low on it. If you will follow this order of importance, you will definitely be able to increase your damage even further. Good luck to you in this noble endeavor. Please like and subscribe to the channel for more RPG content, and feel free to ask any questions on Twitch or Discord as well. Thank you for watching and see you next time.